Hi everybody, we're a little late. Sorry about that. Welcome to episode 60 of A Fern Between Us.
We're two of the four owners of Evoc Winery. My name's Jesse.
I'm Michelle, and this is one of the last weekly segments for a little while. We're moving to once a month.
Next
Starting
week.
Next week.
Being the first of the monthly.
I know, so that's a little weird. But it's going to be really fun to check back in with you monthly. We're going to do the Wine Club wines the first Thursday of every month.
Nice.
That's when we're going to be airing. Mm-hmm. And then we'll come back to you on a weekly basis in the fall when everybody's, hunkering down a little bit more and our schedule gets a little easier too.
What are we drinking today?
We are drinking the Abbott Red, which is a blend.
It is.
From our Abbott vineyard.
It is.
It is the Syrah and the Cabernet Franc.
All right.
And how did you come about this blend? Did it come accidentally, or did you and Chris really fine-tune deciding it's a 50-50 blend?
So
That's interesting.
Right. So we wanted to keep a north-centric red. So we, when we don't have enough grapes of each individual, like Cabernet Franc
varietal.
or Syrah, like we didn't have enough to make one wine of it. We could have done it and then released it and have it and be out in a month, and
you're like, we have 40
bottles
bottles
or whatever.
They cost you $300.
Right. So we combined the two in order to. So we could have. All right. We could have blended with something from the south. Like if I had known it was going to be that short, I would have maybe bought Cabernet Franc from the south and bought Syrah from the south and blended it with this north. But in this case, we just decided, you know what, let's blend the two together. We tasted it before we decided this. We tasted it and we're like, I like that blend. Let's just go with that. And so we can keep it kind of more northern stylistically rather than trying to make it a pure Merlot or a pure Syrah. So that's kind of where we go with it. And actually, this last in 2020, we're doing a northern red and a northern white, because neither Velarde or our vineyard had any grapes. I mean, we had some, but not that many. So we're combining all of them. They're all northern, and it's just a blend of everything that we've got from the north and a blend of everything that we've got from the north of the whites. So it'll switch around. Usually we'll have, all the varietals from the north, but sometimes we don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I do think that when you've done that with the Chardonnay, where you took the northern grapes and added them to the southern grapes, it made for an outstanding Chardonnay. The complexity was increased. It was so delicious. It was really amazing. So that is a hard decision.
It is.
Also,
I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer in lots of ways. I don't either.
And you did ask me the other day what my opinion was. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I find it very difficult to decide, because do you make what could be, right? Like nobody knows what the end is once it's aged, once it's blended, once it's in the bottle, what happens. So there's some element of a gamble. So do you put those northern grapes into a heavy southern grape wine, right? Syrah with Syrah, Cabernet Franc with Cabernet Franc. But it could make it just so amazing. Or you could lose those subtleties into and it's gone.
So we've done that with Syrah. We've never done that with Cabernet Franc, because the southern Cabernet Franc we've tried Cabernet Franc before we had access to the Velarde, to the Abbott vineyard. We tried making a Cabernet Franc out of two different vineyards in the south. We've tried it twice. And it just wanted to turn to vinegar so bad that I'm scared to even try a southern Cabernet Franc again. Grape.
It's very stable and beautiful and so
exactly
varietally correct.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
I can see that.
And I don't know. So with Chardonnay, this coming year, we need a little more Chardonnay than we're going to get from the Abbott. So we are going to blend we're going to buy some Southern grapes and blend that into our, we're going to try to make it stylistically Northern. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes. And then Riesling, we're going to make a Southern Riesling as well this year because our the need for more Riesling in our winery is it's amazing.
There's a massive need for a great dry Riesling. If you haven't tried it yet, you should because it's flying off the shelves.
And I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with the Riesling. I think the Chardonnay will be a blend of North and South. Riesling, I don't know if we're going to vint them. We're going to ferment them separately. Vint is the verb. We are going to vint them separately.
They are vintners, and they are going to vint them separately.
And we may keep them separate, or we may blend them in some amount. Maybe the Southern will be in the kegs. Maybe the Northern will be in the bottles. We'll see.
We'll see what it tastes like, right?
Exactly. And we've been, for a while, we've been kind of blending the Abbott and the 1725.
Depending North,
right,
I think
exactly.
that makes sense.
And depending on the concentration, sometimes we're able to label it 1725, sometimes we're able to label it Abbott, but for the last couple of years they've had both in them.
Yeah.
So, and this year there's 3 vineyards that we're going to get Riesling from, so we'll see what we do with it. I don't know.
That's good. I mean, from
I can't promise.
Purely geeking out on wine standpoint, that sounds really exciting. Mm-hmm. From a business perspective, that sounds like a hot mess. Because we're going to have to brand it a certain way. There's certain types of ways to put it out into the market.
Logistically, I'm not stoked.
It's a challenge. But I do love this Abbott Red. This particular vintage, the Cabernet Franc and Syrah blend, really meld together nicely. That's not a blend that I would normally find anywhere.
Kind of a... It's our version of a Super Tuscan? I don't know. No.
As in, like...
No, as in nothing. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay. That's wrong.
But generally speaking, they're in 2 different categories.
Yeah.
You're doing like light to medium red, and then medium red, and then full body, and Syrah tends to land in that full body, and Cabernet Franc tends to land in that light. And so to put them together makes sense in one way, but also, what? Okay.
Right? I know what I was thinking. It's like a super Rhone, because Merlot is not part of the Rhone 13 varietals, and we've added Merlot to a Rhone varietal.
What do you say about Merlot all of a sudden?
Then, you said Cab Franc. Never mind. I thought it was the Merlot. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, never mind. I didn't know what I was talking about.
It's because he's not listening while I'm speaking. You see how this happens?
I was thinking about what I was going to say, not what she was saying.
The key to
or what
acting,
we were doing.
The key to acting
is listening.
Nah,
really?
I know. And
come on.
You know what also is the
that
key
can't be true.
To a great marriage? Listening.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have more to talk to our couples counselor tomorrow about. I have a list. I'm keeping a list. And then we were on the show, and then he didn't even listen to me.
I didn't even hear her. I don't know what she's talking about.
All right. So it's a phenomenal wine. I highly recommend it. It sells really, really quickly. It is a little bit different vintage to vintage. This is such a super easy drinking wine that you can definitely patio sip it, or you can pair
even though it's really full bodied though.
It is,
but it's easy.
It's dynamic too. Yeah. And it has those high elements. Mm-hmm. So I'm always looking for depth of character in a wine. So
some alto and some bass.
Yeah, you need to have things that are, immediate, that are coming into your palate. It sits, it develops, it ends in these kind of segments. I like that. So, all right, but we're going to move on to questions. The first one, so we open this up to whatever you guys want. And
easy peasy.
So it's all over the place.
To put me to the test, maybe.
Yeah. I love it when he has zero idea of what's coming, and they're weird.
I'm scared a little bit, of course,
like
as
it.
usual.
Okay, honestly, is there a wine you make you don't like? Tricky.
Oh man, I'm not allowed to talk smack about one of my children. But
Which
of
is,
course, right? Like, of course, there's
you love all of them, and I keep trying to tell him,
and in their own way. But not all of them are my style exactly. They didn't ask which one, so I don't even have to.
Should we? Okay, I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous.
All right, to me, what I do is we make, and Chris, we make the very best wines that we can. We decide on a blend, and then in 2 situations we sweeten them. And that's the 7 bricks, red and white, that we. It's just not our style, and it's not to our taste. So what we do is we try to come up with what we have a baseline. We have to go sweeter than a certain amount. We know what that amount is. We want it to be sweeter than that because we realize that people have a palate that wants something at least that sweet. And then so after we've done the blend, the original blend, then we go by we go by 1% residual sugar up from there, and we try to figure out what somebody else is going to like.
That's hard
with that palate.
Hard.
It's a super challenge. We have this in other aspects as well, where we're trying to. I like it best this way, but I think the public is going to like it best this way, and we have to try to go with we have to go against our own instincts in some ways.
Your own personal choice. It's not your instinct.
Exactly.
You're still making an excellent wine.
That is correct.
So just to clarify, just because you personally might not choose that to drink on a daily basis, it doesn't mean that any corners are being cut.
Right.
It's still an excellent wine.
100%.
It's just a little sweeter than you like your reds.
So in those 2
whites.
cases, that's where I don't choose to drink those on my free time per se. But it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate them when I try them, and it doesn't mean that I haven't put just as much, maybe more energy into them. It's harder. It's harder to make a wine that isn't to my stylistic preference. And we do this to some degree on lots of wines.
I was going to say,
some
we
of
have
them,
a long list.
A lot of them.
We need to have a little bit of everything.
I want a
on
range.
there.
If not, all of our wines would taste exactly the same, and very close to the same. It'd all be like in this one narrow band, and like everybody else who likes something different, go somewhere else.
Like
that's not a good
Chianti
idea.
Tasting,
right?
Where you have varying versions of Chianti, and you're like, yes, they're all awesome, but they're all Chianti.
Yeah.
You need a Chianti, you need a Rhone, you need a Bordeaux, you need a Burgundy, you need a Shiraz from Australia, you need a Boulder Cabernet. I mean, we don't make a Boulder Cabernet, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that fits it.
So it would be the 7 bricks, but it's just because it's not my stylistic preference. But but all of them, to one degree or another, I'm using some amount of imagination of what other people are looking for and trying to have a broader portfolio.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
I approve of that.
Oh, good. As the marketing, don't talk crap about your own wine. No, but
Often, especially in the beginning, when we'd go to winemaker dinners, Jesse and Chris would get so excited about the new vintage that we'd be pouring an older vintage at a dinner, and then they would say,
this one's okay.
Yeah,
but wait till you see the
excited
2019 or whatever.
Vintage. And I was like,
no, you're supposed to be excited about the one that's on the table.
Is beautiful, drinking beautifully. People are excited, but
it's hard to do in some ways to be real excited about something that you've already gone past.
I think it's like people, I don't know why the acting thing is a theme tonight, but it's like actors where, the movie finally comes out years after they've made it. And they're working on a new project that they'd like to talk about, but instead they have to talk about this thing that they did several years ago.
And they're like, that was great and fun. I'm over it.
I
I
don't
realize
even
the
remember.
mistakes now. I'm so much better than that.
All right, so that's longer actually
Sorry.
than I thought. Okay, what happened to the wine club blending kits?
All right. So we had a few. We did not have as much interest as we.
Let's explain to those people that are not in the wine club what that is and what they're talking about.
So this is not an idea that I hate. This is something that someday we will do again.
That's a bizarre way to introduce
amazing.
This. The kit was a selection of wines that had not been blended together yet. So it was, for example, our Syrah, our Refosco, our Sangiovese, and our Cabernet.
Yeah.
So 4 bottles were sent to a wine club member that wanted to sign up for this fun experience, along with glasses, some of our inside blending notes and suggestions, and all of the
couple of tools to help you,
really be specific and measure it out.
The way we measure it, it was sent out there exactly like that.
And exactly step by step how we do it. So it was really fun. People would get a group together and everybody would decide on one blend, and then they would send those percentages into us. Jesse and Chris would recreate those blends, and then we'd choose a winner. The winner would get to have their name or their group name, sometimes they like to call their group something, on the label. And it was really
cool.
fun for a lot of people. And
really fun, really cool.
Yeah, but it became a little bit more work.
It's a lot of work. And somehow we never got the timing right. So we were always like we're sending out the blends, but had to allow people like a month to like get their group together and blah, blah, blah. So by the time we get the responses back, we recreate the blends. Like by now, if we're in the blending stage, we're like trying to make all these blends, but we have to like allot like 100 gallons of this to go over here, or 50 gallons of that, and we don't know what that's going to be, so we can't make our blends until we get those results back. And it became logistically, we were not as on it as we needed to be in order to get those out soon enough in order to make it easier for us to be able to do our blending. So that's mostly the reason. We also didn't have tons and tons of people doing this. So it was like maybe 10 or 15 people, groups, kits that went out.
Well, thank God. Like imagine if you had like 100 people. We have a very robust wine club, which is so fantastic. Thank you, everybody. That is so amazing. You guys keep us going. It's wonderful. We are so grateful. But if 100 of you guys did it, we'd just have to like close up shop for weeks on end to like do these blends. And it was such a phenomenal idea. So, I believe that was Liliana's idea too.
We may end up revisiting it or something like it. I love hearing people's feedback. It was a real back and forth. It was a lot of fun. I think
it really made a cool wine club experience.
Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to this. So look for us to do something like that in the future.
Yeah, right. I totally agree.
Not this year though.
No,
it's already too late this year. But
plus we had COVID brain. We're trying to get back into things. Things are really rocky. Rocky is in we can't think through like a new project. What is your favorite food and wine pairing?
All right. Maybe my favorite was a class that we took at one point. They served a marsala chicken with something at our. Do you remember this?
The advanced food and wine pairing? Oh.
They did a marsala chicken with, what was it?
International Wine Guild is where we get our sommelier certifications. We've done several of our advanced masters classes. One of them is the advanced food and wine pairing. It is phenomenal. It is very intense. And I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look at my notes. I don't remember that. There were so many incredible things. What about with your wines? Or
I would say my very favorite one was an early vintage of Refosco with a salad with dried cranberries and feta cheese.
Spinach. It was.
And a raspberry vinaigrette, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it was.
But real light on the vinaigrette.
And
it was amazing.
Bacon pieces.
Oh, and some bacon. Yes, of course. So it
That
just
was
had
amazing.
it had all the right elements, and with that Refosco early on, it just, I don't know, somehow they married so well. I was like, oh.
That
and
is
I'm
really fun.
I'm not sure. Do you think our Refosco now would pair just as well with that exact salad, or do you think?
I think it always will. I think it lends itself to that. I also really love when we've done bacon wrapped elk.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a really nice pairing with the Refosco. The Refosco is so unique that it can really go
It's versatile
ways.
in lots of ways. Yeah, for pairing.
One of my favorite pairings was the Chardonnay with the ice cream and peach cobbler that Johnny V did at one of our picking parties. And I kind of pulled a Hail Mary with this one because ice cream doesn't pair, period.
Yeah.
And so then to pick a dry white wine, it was a little bit of a,
We'll see what happens, I guess.
I'm going to try this out. And then everybody loved it, and it was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I could breathe a little easier. I was like, uh-oh.
Nice.
I love it when I can surprise people.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things, is to do these pairings that just blow people's minds. And that was a great example of that.
And it doesn't always work out, of course.
Sometimes it's just a nice pairing.
Right.
And then other times it's a wow pairing.
Exactly.
If you can warm nuts like salted almonds and have that with our Amante, the port style wine.
Warm nuts, you say.
That's really nice. I knew he was going to go there. I thought about not even saying it. All right. What is the one wine area you think everyone should visit?
Worldwide, you mean? Probably. I mean, stupid Napa's awesome, but I would go. I would go with Sonoma better, honestly.
Better.
Better.
Can you tell that we were raised in northern Mexico?
I'd go Sonoma better. It's not better, but it's kind of better. Let's see. Other great places. I mean, Europe is just so amazing with the just endless vineyards too.
Well, there's so much longer history.
Exactly.
There's some amount of that they've fine-tuned. They're ahead of a lot of areas.
But they're way behind on tasting room or customer service.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've always just been distro only, and after Napa started.
What is one of your favorite places in the U.S.? Let's start there.
Well, I have to say Sonoma, I guess, yeah.
Okay. Mine would be Walla Walla, Washington.
Oh, man, we haven't been there in a long while. That's crazy.
We haven't been there in a long time, but it made a huge imprint on my mind with Cabernet Franc, and that's where it became one of my favorite grapes, because when it is spot on, it is
spot on.
It is so phenomenal that I love that, and I hadn't had that experience with a grape yet. Okay, so if you're talking about Europe, the classic old world countries, Spain, France, Italy, Portugal, Germany, what... Oops, sorry, Karen. God.
Chianti to me is, it's just so gorgeous, and it's like everything is right.
So Chianti the region or Chianti the wine?
Chianti the region.
Okay, because there's lots of different wines within the Chianti region.
Yeah, we're talking about regions, right? So we're talking about...
Yes, but I just was trying to make it clear, because a lot of people think of Chianti and they think of the basket, old school. There's an age range of reference.
I don't even know if they still do that, but yeah, you're right. No, to me, to me, I kind of feel like, I mean, it's just so gorgeous over there and so quaint because of that. But they're, you know,
because of the baskets.
No, because because of the scenery and the just endless hills of like of grapes, which is amazing. But you know, the New World is like really like the U.S. We haven't done Australia or New Zealand, so I can't speak to them or whatever. But I
drank a lot of wines out of there.
I've also heard South Africa's insane. We've not done that. Like
we have also drank a lot of wines out of there, but we haven't been there.
Exactly. Chile and Argentina, we have been to. They're kind of doing the tasting room thing, but not quite as much, not quite like we are here. So it's the tasting room thing is really where you get like the interaction, which is probably what you're looking for. California does it best, but the US does it the best so far that I know of.
Yeah, no, totally. And so I really, really deeply love Italy as food, wine, art, so many reasons. That if you haven't been to Italy, I feel like that might be one of the quintessentials that you have to go to. But also, I was just astounded by what was happening in Central Europe. And
yeah, I was gonna say any of the European countries, they've started doing tasting rooms at like a lot of places, but they also don't in lots of ways. You have to make an appointment in most of these kind of places, but that can be its own special thing too. If you can go through that, you can't just show up at 4:00 whenever. Like you have to make the appointment, and you have to, and it's really difficult. And not every winery you want to hit is doable. But if you do, you might have a real magical experience because it's one-on-one with maybe the owner sometimes.
I would recommend Eger in Hungary.
Oh yeah, that was good.
It is has a range of phenomenal wines and accessible tasting rooms, and really friendly atmosphere of welcoming you in.
Dude, all right, so they had this like one like circle drive where you could park down below or maybe on the street if you're lucky, and then like each place every 20 feet was like a new winery's like little cave. They all were caves too, by the way. And then like half of them served some amount of food, which is usually just like a portion of raw pork fat, not just pork, but raw pork fat. Amazing, like really gross and awesome.
The wines are phenomenal.
And the wines are phenomenal.
Great whites, phenomenal
totally
rosés.
wild.
Exceptional big bold reds. I mean, you really
cost you almost nothing, and you just hop from one to the other. You can visit with 20 if you wanted to in an evening, you know. But
it's gorgeous.
You probably want to sit there and have a glass of wine at 4.
Do you remember how to say the name?
No.
Heligen. Heligenbrum. What?
Oh,
you were the only one that ever was able to
I'd
pronounce
have to look at it. Helgenbrum. Something like that, but it's
like this long and ridiculous. That was not going to be one of my areas of expertise speaking over there, but amazing. Okay. What is the gunk you find stuck to the red wine cork sometimes?
All right. So there's 2 different kinds of gunk. There's gunk that's like a slimy gunk.
Tell us about your gunk, baby.
No, we try really hard not to have this, by the way. Basically, the slimy gunk that you get is these elongated tannin chains that are like, that basically fall out. They strip some color. They strip a little bit of mouthfeel, but not that much.
Last time we talked about stripping. Are you talking about stripping again?
Yeah, a little bit. And we have not had that problem in many, many, many years, but it is a problem. I don't like it. It doesn't affect the flavor of the wine. It doesn't affect the quality of the wine, but it does affect the appearance of when you pull out the cork. If you could touch the bottom of the cork and your thumb has a smudge of red on it, that's not what we're trying to do.
But it also shows a small producer.
Exactly.
making the wine. So you're even closer to, that whole footprint and the farm to table. We do grape to table. There's something that you're seeing there far more than just a smudge on your finger.
It's not ideal for us, mostly because of appearance, but we're trying not to do it. But it shouldn't affect the flavor or
What's the second
quality.
gunk?
Second gunk is Tartrate Crystals. Mm-hmm. So some people are like, is this gonna like cut me? Is this?
A lot of people think that it's glass.
It could be broken glass or something. It's not. So basically, it's just a super saturated solution. If you remember back to high school chemistry, if you have a super saturated solution, you add too much. You heat up your wine, your water with more sugar than it could do at room temperature, and then you let it chill. It will create sugar crystals. Right. It's the same thing with this.
That's how the rock candy's made, right?
Rock candy, exactly. It's basically rock candy with sugar. This is that exact same thing, but with tartaric acid crystals that can form on the. They always end up forming on the cork because we store them upside down, and they basically grow up from the bottom. So when you pull the cork, it can have like some tartrate crystals. I think the Refosco this year has some of that going on right now. I've heard from a couple people, and I actually experienced that myself. I personally like to even eat the crystals because they're kind of like a little acidic and kind of have a little flavor. Michelle does not. So it to each their own. Once again, doesn't affect the flavor, doesn't affect the
I still
quality.
Drink the wine.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the quality or the flavor, but it's not ideally what we're trying to do. It's a product of not having had filtered and or
a heavy filtration, I think is what you're looking for.
Exactly.
So really big companies that have really giant production, they have very expensive equipment and they filter and fine very efficiently. But that also changes the palate feel.
Right.
So there is such a thing as a difference between the small producer that has a much better palate feel and taste and interest in that wine, but you might have some sludge at the bottom. That's okay.
It's also, by the way, why there's a punt at the bottom of a bottle is if you're...
Is that like the bunt?
The bunt cake. Put a flower in it? No. So there's a punt in the bottom of a bottle. So basically, in the olden times, nobody was filtering because we didn't have filtering ability to filter. We could find, but we couldn't filter. So most wines had sediment. So they would store it on its side or upside down for a long time, and then when they were gonna possibly drink this wine next week, they would turn it back right side up and let it settle out, and then basically you'd have all the sediment would go down and around there, and that's also why we decant. So then they would like decant with they would look at the
a candle light through it.
Yeah, so they'd have light on the other
what
side.
Was clear and what started to get foggy.
And as soon as you had sediment, they'd turn it up.
Yep.
And they'd lose the last ounce or two of their wine bottle or whatever, but then the resulting wine would be kind of clear in the decanter, and then you could pour from the decanter.
It's super rare to get to see somebody perform this incredible artistic approach to pouring a bottle of wine. Yeah. We were lucky enough to do it before we got married. We saved up and we were allowing ourselves one extreme over-the-top meal, and we had researched it quite a bit, and the very best, just amazing jewel of a restaurant in Tuscany.
One of the only 2 or 3 times we've ever ate at a Michelin star restaurant.
Yes, especially that we had to pay for it.
Right.
That was the only time. But we did get married in Italy. I know. Sorry.
Back when we were poor too. I don't know how we did it.
I don't know. My parents.
Right. We wrangled and
my parents
put everyone in the poorhouse.
Yeah, exactly. My parents had to mortgage their home. No, not really. They had to do that for my education. Just kidding. Only not. Anyway, this amazing meal. You didn't get to choose what you ate. It was predetermined. You just came, sat down, white gloves, very elegant. They decanted the wine with all of the pomp and circumstance that you want of a gorgeous wine. You also didn't really get to pick that too. It was like
they kind of told us
we're suggesting this. We said
okay, whatever you say.
But they had the candle behind it. Oh, it was amazing. It was really amazing. Yeah. And I think more places should maybe do that because you feel so luxurious.
Yeah, we were one of like 3 tables that night.
Yeah, that's it.
It was amazing.
Back before COVID, when people would jam into places.
We're still one of 3.
Long before COVID. Yeah, I think there were only 5 in the restaurant, and we had to get an early seating. Anyway, okay. What are your travel plans for the rest of 2021? We've actually got some fun stuff.
I'm going on a bike ride next month, about a month from now. Bicycle.
I wish I could...
Hut to hut, Durango to Moab. Chris and I are going to do it with 4 other people.
You guys are going to do it with 4 other people?
No.
Sounds like an orgy.
It does a little bit, but it'll be stinkier than that. My guess.
That's your comment. It will be stinkier than that.
It's like an orgy, but stinkier.
Or maybe without the sex?
Maybe without the women. Yeah, just be dudes.
What is happening in this conversation? I hope there's no sex happening with his brother.
We really hope that. Jesus.
Well, and
that'd
also,
be brutal.
Oh my. Okay, hut to hut biking.
Yeah,
that's awesome. You guys, Chris and yourself, have new bikes. It is the winery's transportation vehicles. And so these new bikes, super exciting, built to do this off-road thing, right? I'm not a biker.
Pretty much, yeah. Trail. I mean, most of it'll be single track and all that stuff. It'll be fun. 35 miles. Like we're hoping we're in shape enough to do that.
35 miles total?
Each day.
Each day. That's a lot.
7 days in a row. I think it's like, I can't remember, but
awesome.
Something like that. 30 to 35, so it's somewhere in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. I have stuff. What is my stuff? Oh, I have the Great American, which was
wine competition.
Back. Yeah, international wine competition in New York. They're flying me out there. And so that's going to be really fun. That's actually in July. Usually it's in the winter, so that's kind of interesting. I've never seen Rochester in the summer.
Nice.
Rochester's surprisingly cute.
Yeah.
Then, we have the gourmet raft trip with New Mexico Wine Adventure. No.
Also
New Mexico wine.
No, New Mexico, not wine. New Mexico River Adventures, NMRA, a local rafting company. They have nothing to do with wine except for this one trip of the year.
Well, and they like to drink wine and they're good friends of ours.
Exactly.
Yes, so NMRA, and it's a multi-day trip down the Rio Chama with extravagant...
Are there any tickets left?
I don't know. I think there's maybe a couple of seats.
If you guys are interested, do it like now because it's happening in July and it fills up fast as soon as the word's out. It fills up fast,
but you can get on the waiting list for next year, and that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Is that you need to get on a waiting list for next year. You got to plan kind of out.
It's not that expensive. I think it's $800 a head, and it's a 3-night or 3-day, 2-night. Gourmet, you get 2 wine dinners, you get
glamping,
all the stuff.
It's they bring in white tablecloths and china, and we bring Riedel glasses and
I don't know if it's china, but it's nice flatware.
They claim it's china.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't gonna say it's definitely not paper plates.
China.
It's not paper plates, and it's probably not engraved china, but somewhere in between.
Anyway, it's the chef comes. We come. It's either Jesse and I or Liliana and Chris. We take turns, and it's phenomenal. It's an amazing experience. So 4-course meals every night. It's pretty cool. So we're doing that, and then I actually have the American Wine Society National Conference that is sending me out to Atlantic City. So once a year, there's American Wine Society meetings all over the United States, but once a year they have a national conference where everybody flocks to, usually from all over the world. A lot of people are hoping to be able to fly in from Europe. Of course, it's a little tentative with the COVID restrictions, but it's kind of a giant deal that they're, taking me out there. I hope I do good. Right. I have 2 classes. Yeah. They're really large format. We have at least 100 people per class. Yeah. And so...
Good luck.
I know. I hope I do good. Okay.
And as far as Chris and Lily go, they're on vacation now. They'll be right back. They'll be back for 5 months, and then they cruise to the Virgin Islands for the last 2 months of the year. And then that's basically it for the 4 of us. But then... A year from now, we'll be in Indonesia for most of the spring. So
yeah, so that's kind of how we do it. Is
just a little this, a little that, a little this, a little that.
And that's the whole idea of why Jesse and Chris had this dream to have 2 couples owning the winery so that we could take turns. Yeah. So instead of buying really expensive, lavish cars, we go on trips. So I know it sounds like they're going on
1 car equals yacht. 1 trip, just kind of, price wise.
Used car.
Yeah, 1 used car equals 1 new car equals 2 trips.
Yeah, well, basically. It depends on what kind of car.
Right. but anyway, price wise, you get the...
It sounds
we spend our money that way instead of this way.
That's what my point was. It sounds like, oh my gosh.
They're amazing.
They're always on vacation.
We've got old cars, but we're doing good.
It's built into our plan, and that's what I was trying... We have so much to talk to our therapist about tomorrow.
Okay, so next week, Cabernet and Rosé of Cabernet.
Yes! So, if you want to start joining our wine club, you get this newsletter that has all kinds of goodies on it, and a
newsletter,
a letter from the winemakers. They take turns writing it, so that you get a little bit extra. So, hopefully, you guys want to join that. You get the wines shipped to you.
Speaking of extra, you got extra today, an extra 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us next week, which we are tasting the new Wine Club wines, but we also have a guest, and it is Chris Van Zyl. I'm going to ask her if she says Zyl. It's Zyl. Chris, right? She is a specialist in the luxury travel consultant industry.
No way.
She actually has been working in her family's business that was set up by her grandpa. It has been around for 110 years.
Jeez.
They are experts. And all of you want to escape and go somewhere, it's going to be an excellent show. So send in your questions about your travel, whatever that is, right? Yeah. Where you want to go, what she recommends, how to do it, all that stuff, okay?
How many gorillas and how many skydiving should you do in each place? I don't know.
How many gorillas should you do?
No, how many gorillas should you pet or hang out with or try to watch? Okay. I don't know.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Don't do gorillas, though. Jeez,
or
people.
Your brother.
Or your brother.
Cheers.
Cheers, you guys. Enjoy.